Hamas is refusing to lay down its weapons, so the United States and Israel are moving on to Plan B. We're going to get into all the details in this video. Make sure you stay through to the end when we talk about what this all really means moving forward. On September 29th, President Trump unveiled his 20-point plan, his proposal to end the war in Gaza. Now, the first phase of the plan included an immediate ceasefire, an Israeli release of a large number of prisoners, of terrorists from its prisons, and Hamas releasing the Israeli hostages, and Hamas being disarmed. And Israel, for its part, would withdraw its forces to a yellow line, this internal perimeter that we talked about in a couple of our previous videos. Now, in the Trump plan, later on at some future date, this international stabilization force, a new security force, would be deployed in the Gaza Strip, and a transitional government structure would be set up with technocrats, Palestinian technocrats, under the supervision of a board of peace chaired by President Trump and led by former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair, until a permanent Palestinian Authority is reformed. Because the Palestinian Authority is notoriously corrupt, they support terrorism, they educate their children to genocide. So part of the plan is that they are called on to reform themselves. And the later stages of the plan include all sorts of promises of reconstruction and foreign investment to create a new, more prosperous life for the people of Gaza. So over the last few days, it's been reported by Reuters and The Atlantic and Financial Times and other mainstream media outlets that there's a new U.S. plan to move forward, even though Hamas has not been disarmed. This new U.S. plan is designed to create new housing communities for vetted Gazans on the Israeli side of the yellow line. According to The Atlantic, quote, U.S. officials call the new developments alternate safe communities. The initiative is designed to create communities of vetted Gazans, but it would separate them from those on the Hamas-controlled side of the yellow line, end quote. There was an email by Lieutenant General Patrick Frank, who is the coordinator for the U.S. side, where he described what these communities will include. They will include a medical center, a school, an administrative building, and temporary housing for approximately 25,000 people. That's reported in The Atlantic. Now, U.S. officials also said that at least one pilot alternate safe community will be built in the very near future. The first potential site they're looking at is in the south of Gaza near Rafah. Now, these communities, as I said, would include only Palestinians who are vetted, meaning that they'd be approved by Israel's security services. Now, the Israelis also told the U.S. planners that those Gazans who move into these new towns on the Israeli side will not be allowed to cross back into Hamas-controlled areas, meaning they won't be able to go back over into the Hamas side of the yellow line so long as Hamas still has weapons and is still in power. They can't have people going back and forth. Now, Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of President Trump and also the senior envoy who's the architect of this whole plan, and other U.S. officials have described the housing effort as part of building what they call New Gaza on the Israeli-controlled side. Now, the term New Gaza is the name given to the reconstructed post-Hamas Gaza that is described in the Trump plan. The Trump plan uses that phrase, New Gaza. And Kushner told The Atlantic that, quote, no reconstruction funds will be going into areas that Hamas still controls. Now, the truth is that this new plan by the Americans is not a new plan at all. It's actually right there in the original 20-point plan. In point 17, it states as follows. In the event that Hamas delays or rejects this proposal, the above, including the scaled-up aid operation, will proceed in the terror-free areas handed over from the IDF to the ISF. Now, there's no ISF yet, but these are areas controlled by the IDF, and Hamas is not cooperating with the plan because they're refusing to disarm. And just as it says here in Clause 17, if Hamas doesn't cooperate, then in the IDF secured areas, in the terror-free areas, as the plan says, then everything else in the plan moves forward. And the above talked about in the plan is reconstruction efforts and foreign investment and job opportunities and health services, et cetera, et cetera. Now, Arab states and many of the European states and other international actors are not happy about this new American plan. According to Reuters, quote, European and Arab states want the West Bank-based Palestinian Authority and its police force to return to Gaza alongside the multinational force to take over from Hamas. Thousands of its officers trained in Egypt and Jordan are ready for deployment. But Israel opposes any involvement by the Palestinian Authority. So here are the Arab states and the European states saying that they want the Palestinian Authority involved in the security services in the Gaza Strip already at this point. Now, Israel rejects any involvement by the Palestinian Authority in Gaza governance at this point, and this is consistent with the Trump plan. Clause 9 of the plan explicitly calls for the Palestinian Authority to undergo reforms before they can take any leadership role. And then we read at the end of the plan in clause 19, quote, while Gaza redevelopment advances, and when the Palestinian Authority reform program is faithfully carried out, the conditions may finally be in place for a credible pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood, which we recognize as the aspiration of the Palestinian people. In other words, according to the Trump plan, the Palestinian Authority is not meant to be involved in the governance of any kind of independent Palestinian Authority down in the Gaza Strip until they've gone through significant reforms. And here you have the Arab and European officials who say that they want the Palestinian Authority to be deployed, that their police force should be deployed as part of the security force even at this point. Now, European and Arab officials have also expressed concern, worry that this yellow line may become a long-term permanent border inside Gaza, de facto partitioning the Gaza Strip into two, into the Hamas side and the IDF side. Ayman Safadi, Jordan's foreign minister, told a conference earlier this month, quote, we cannot have fragmentation of Gaza. Gaza is one and part of the Palestinian territory. Safadi added that, quote, the crucial issue is setting a timeline for Israel's withdrawal. Really, the crucial issue is setting a timeline for Israel's withdrawal? Isn't the crucial issue getting rid of Hamas so that we can move forward? You see, the timeline for Israel's withdrawal, Mr. Safadi, is right there in Trump's 20-point plan. And if I remember correctly, the Jordanian government is one of the nations that agreed to the Trump 20-point plan. And here it is, Clause 16. As the international stabilization force establishes control and stability, the Israel Defense Forces will withdraw based on standards, milestones, and timeframes linked to demilitarization. You see, according to the Trump plan, the IDF only withdraws as Hamas demilitarizes, and the Jordanians have made it clear. We talked about this in an earlier video where King Abdullah of Jordan made it very clear that the Jordanians want no part of disarming or demilitarizing Hamas in any way. So, Mr. Safadi, the timeline is that when Hamas lays down its weapons and Gaza becomes peaceful, we can start talking about an Israeli withdrawal. Another Arab diplomat told the Financial Times, quote, the optics of this new American plan to build housing would be disastrous. It would look like we are building for Israel and not the Palestinians. This diplomat added that no Arab state would provide funds for construction on this basis, adding, quote, collectively, we have all said that. Think about that for a moment. We're talking about the Americans building housing for Gazans who don't want to live under Hamas. And here is an Arab diplomat saying on behalf of Arab governments that this would look like we're helping the Israelis. Now, Israel's position is that any further withdrawals are tied to Hamas disarmament and the deployment of the international security force. Israel wants to see the plan move forward. Israel wants Hamas to be disarmed. Israel wants Gaza to be reconstructed under U.S. leadership. Hamas, of course, is refusing to disarm, and that is what is holding things up. As we've said in our previous videos, Hamas never committed to the Trump plan. Before we go on, be sure to go into the description of this video and download the free ebook that's available there. It is a collection of articles, of columns that I've written and that really provide my analysis since the beginning of the October 7th war. And it'll really give you a window into what we've been through since the war began. So go ahead and download that. Now back to the video. Let's sum things up. The United States is pushing this idea of building safe housing zones for vetted Gazans on the Israeli-controlled side of the Yellow Line. Israel supports this plan. It supports the entire Trump plan and insists that they will only withdraw when Hamas is disarmed and Gaza is stabilized. The Arab states and the European states who were involved have expressed concern about the American housing plan, the creation of separate zones, and they fear a potential partition of the Gaza Strip. Now, ask yourself the following question. Why are Arab and European states so afraid of a division of the Gaza Strip? Why are they so opposed to moving forward with creating Hamas-free zones for Gazans? If Hamas would be disarmed and removed, Israel would happily withdraw further. Israel has no desire to divide up the Gaza Strip. Israel has no desire to govern the Gazan population. Israel wants Hamas to be removed from power so that the Gaza Strip is no longer a threat to Israel. You know who's responsible for dividing the Gaza Strip? Hamas. You see, Israel withdrew to the Yellow Line. It withdrew to a perimeter to facilitate the first phase of the plan with the promise from the Americans and all of these other governments that said that they signed on to his plan that somehow Hamas would be disarmed. And we've talked about this, that there's no real plan. So if they don't want to be involved in the disarming of Hamas, and they don't want to, but they also don't want Israel to go in to finish off Hamas and disarm them themselves. They would probably condemn Israel for that. They also want the Palestinian Authority to be involved even in security before going through any reforms. If you put it all together, the Europeans and these Arab states are not interested in the well-being of Gazan citizens. Why on earth would they oppose Gazans who don't want to live under Hamas being able to do so, being able to move out of Hamas-controlled territory and have schools and housing and health services and job opportunities? Why would they be opposed to that? See, the reason that they're opposed to that, it would mean the potential end of the conflict. It would mean the potential end of the attack on Israel that has been going on since the founding of the state. You see, if you had large numbers of Palestinians living in areas under IDF security control, rebuilding their lives in a peaceful way, it might mean the end of the dream of a Palestinian state governed by either Hamas or the Palestinian Authority or some other group that is committed to the destruction of Israel. And that's the last thing they want to see. They're not interested in peace or the well-being of the people of Gaza at all. So that's where things stand right now. It's a little bit of a stalemate. From my perspective, I doubt that any of these plans are going to move forward because Hamas is going to try to make sure that these plans fail. So any Palestinians who participate in this, any Palestinians who move to the U.S. side in order to take advantage of this new housing and new security situation could see their family members that they left behind being harmed. They could see reprisals against them. It's going to be a very difficult situation to pull off, but that's where things stand right now in the Gaza Strip.